which also sometimes ends up being an issue for me because I'm very, um, not controlling, but overbearing
Yeah.
sometimes
Yep.
with how I approach with my children and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, because I want to make sure that they're getting all the things that I don't think I did receive, which again, which is subjective, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um,
Did you
so
like, even as you frame it now, you it sounds like, well, let me not say what it sounds like. Was there ever a period that you resented not having those models, or for you was it always, it's on me, I got to figure it out?
oh, I still resent it.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
do every day.
Okay.
Every day, brother. I resent it. I mean, I resent it, but I'm the figure it out person too.
Welcome to the Dear Son Show. We have conversations about fatherhood. It's for fathers, those with fathers, and the fatherless, so nobody's excluded. These are the conversations I would want my son to access as he matures through life, so no topics are off limits. These are our opinions. We don't suggest that we're always right, but the conversations are right on time. And today, to have a conversation, I need a conversation counterpart. Today we have Brandon Bradley. Welcome to the Dear Son Show. How are you, my brother?
I am doing well today. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming, man. So we talk dad here, but I like to get to know my guests in the process, right? So we're acquainted. We've had been to some events together, but we haven't really had a lot of time to talk. So I'm glad we can do it here.
Mhm.
But let's help orient the people to who you are. I think I hear an accent. Where you from?
So technically, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I was born there, 81. So I'm just about to turn 41 this month. But I grew up here in Texas, out in West Texas, a small town called San Angelo.
Okay.
Moved from New Orleans when I was probably 7 or 8. Well, back and forth from New Orleans between the ages of 6 and 10.
Okay.
So, but finally, around 9 or 10, I stayed here in Texas and have been here ever since. I still have family in New Orleans. My dad lives there. Um, his entire side of the family lives there. My mom side of the family ended up moving to Texas, probably in 96 or 97. So that side of the family lives here.
Okay, cool. You said your birthday is this month or next month?
No, it's this month.
This month, what? What's the
28th.
date? Almost a Virgo, man. I won't hold that against you.
Wow, brother, Libra scale, man.
My birthday is at the time of this recording, it's a week from today, on the 8th.
Nice.
I mean, I'll take September. September's good.
There we go.
It's a strong month.
Yes,
month. So you mentioned your mother and your father. What was the family dynamic growing up? Did you have brothers and sisters, both parents in the house?
Yeah.
How did that work out?
Yeah. So I have one older blood brother. Same mother, same father. He's 2 years older than me. My mom and dad were married for about 10 years. They actually got married in 1984 or 5. So it was after myself and my brother were born.
Okay.
They ended up getting married, and they ended up getting a divorce around 95, 96 or so. Officially divorced around that time.
You and your brother, did you say if you were older or younger?
He's older.
He's older. About how much?
2 years.
Okay. Were y'all close?
We weren't growing. We were as close as a brother. 2 year apart brothers can be fighting all the time, stuff like that. Obviously, as he got older into high school and things of that nature, he started doing a little different stuff. Got into different stuff than I was into. But then after college, we became adults. Me and my brother and I are pretty close at this point. So
I never had an older brother. I got not by blood anyway. I got my group of guys that I call my brothers, but I'm always envious of what that dynamic is, to have that partner to rough up in the house. I had an older sister by 5 years, and we didn't rough-house or anything like that, but similar to your story, we only got close after we were both out of the house. Like when she went to college and came back, I realized that that she had some utility in my life. I actually loved and missed her. What was the relationship like with your dad prior to your parents' divorce?
That's interesting. So my parents kind of went through again, as I said, they got married maybe 4 or 5 years after, I was born, which being the youngest. So I guess it was maybe about 6 or 7 years after they met, had my brother or whatnot.
Mm.
They fought a lot. They broke up, got back together, broke up, got back together, broke up, got back together a lot. And that's part of the reason why, we split time between being in New Orleans and being in San Angelo those first couple years. And then by the time we ended up moving to San Angelo for good, I think my parents may have been together another 3 or 4 years at that point, and it was rough.
Yeah.
It was a rough couple years. They fought a lot, broke up a lot. A couple mornings, my dad would go to work, and my mom would say, "Hey, Brandon and Quentin, y'all ain't going to school because we moving today."
Wow.
so that's those are kind of the dynamics that we had in our household, kind of growing up until all that stuff. So
you say that. I know you're not laughing it off. You're a jovial person.
Yeah.
In that moment, like, how do you process that at whatever age? I mean, if you're living in the house when you're depending and your environment is the expectation that this is life, right?
Right.
Mom, dad, whatever. We live here today.
Right.
Then tomorrow you don't live there without any kind of warning. How did it impact you?
It was a very impactful. For me, I still to this day I hold a lot of stuff in. I have a lot of trouble expressing my emotions, right? So kind of dealing with, like seeing that environment and those kind of changes and whatever else is going on between them. It impacted me in the sense of just, being able to express myself and really understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely want to come back to that, but I kind of want to try to progress through chronologically, as much of your story as we can capture. So what was the most memorable time that happened? Or was there a final time where that happened, where it's we up and move, or was it the divorce was kind of they had more time to plan it out and they saw it, had more time to prepare in that regard?
Yeah. So, I can go into several memorable times, but my father, he started selling recreational medicine.
Oh, okay.
He started selling recreational medicine.
He's an herbalist.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they definitely was. No. This is
right.
the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, brother.
Okay.
I wish it was her herbalist was I'll come back to it. I remember one time my brother, and I think I may have been like 11. Well, I may have been like 9. And my brother goes, "Hey, I think mom and dad do drugs, right?"
Wow.
I was like, "No, they don't." At that time, he was talking about marijuana, but still, it's like, "No, I don't know, they don't. Why they buying it on the street?" So, but to your point, I remember, kind of the moment that sticks out in my mind all the time is, again, my dad started selling, and he actually started using, also, and
is this Louisiana or Texas?
This is in Texas.
Okay.
So, and I'll go back to how we got to Louisiana to Texas here shortly, but he came home, and I remember him taking out a lot of money, right, and saying, "This is how much I made doing this," and my mom was like, they were fighting over it. Right? I don't remember all the details, but I remember him taking out a lot of money about how much he's made and doing that. So It was a, very, and then I'm sure, I don't remember the timeline, but I'm sure we moved there shortly afterwards.
What was how much do you know about either side of the family? Because it sounds like clearly your mother wasn't with it. Your father was. Was that? Was that something that he saw? Do you know?
Yeah.
And like, what was the dynamic with your mother? Was it strong religious background or just strict or anything?
Bro, I am straight hood New Orleans,
Gotcha.
born and bred, projects, all of that. Like, my mom. So when we were in New Orleans, so I mean, and I'll give you that background here shortly. But so the reason why we moved to San Angelo, and I found this out from my father a couple of years ago, was because I actually found it out from my grandmother. My father was getting in a lot of trouble in New Orleans. And my uncle was in the Air Force, and there's an Air Force base station in San Angelo. He got stationed there. My grandmother implored my dad, to move to San Angelo to get away from whatever trouble he was getting into in New Orleans.
Gotcha.
But but while we we're in New Orleans, man, we we're staying, at my mom's house. We were in a shotgun house, maybe 700-800 square feet, 11 people living in that house.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? My dad's side of the family, they stayed in a duplex, in one of the rougher neighborhoods in New Orleans. And but fortunately for us, my grandmother's sister lived in the other side of the duplex, so we had a lot of family on that side. But we would go back and forth from those two houses, from staying with my mom's mom to my dad's mom to my mom's mom. Then we had a house at one point, and then we were out that house. So, it was my and just getting back to just my family dynamics, my family history. Myself, my brother, and my mom are the only ones in my family, with the exception of my dad, except for my brother's daughter, who's now 23, to graduate from high school.
Wow.
Right. So, these,
Yeah.
so, I'm not, so we're just here. Now, fortunately for my mom's a very strong-willed person. When she moved to San Angelo, she didn't know how to drive. She was just, she was I remember times, hopefully my mom doesn't listen to this. My mom, left us on the bed once to go fight. Sorry, Mom, if you listen to this.
Mom throwing them hands.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, this is like my upbringing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
wow. How did that I guess inform your personality at a young age? Were you disruptive in school? Were you more reserved? Like, what was your personality in that environment?
Very. I'm still a very reserved person. I'm probably lying about that, but but in school I was very reserved, very shy. I was fortunate enough to be, not to bragging, but I was a little smarter, or I was able to pick up school
Gotcha.
better. You know what I mean? So I had a lot of benefits for myself personally, just because of my ability to pick up whatever was going on in school.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So
cool. So now, your dad's pharmacy business wasn't wasn't celebrated by your mom.
Right.
Y'all ended up in Texas. What was that shift like for you? Were the conditions extremely different? Was it one hood to another hood, or was Texas?
No, Texas
very
was great.
different. Okay.
Texas was the best thing for us.
Okay.
The entire family. And again, even my mom's side of the family that ended up moving there with whatever struggles that they've gone through, but they're still better off for moving to Texas. But it's the best thing that ever happened to us, because I can only imagine who or what I would have been if I would have continued to grow up in the environment I was in New Orleans.
Yeah. So you're still a family unit at this time, right? Because your dad's father pushed y'all to move to get your dad out of that environment.
Yeah.
Did moving to Texas change anything about his behavior? Like, did he adjust well?
Well, see, and again, I didn't know much about his behavior in New Orleans, because I was a younger kid. I just know when he moved to San Angelo, that's when, those, that's when it got glaring to me what was going on. And it wasn't even glaring, I was still a naive child, right? All I see is, parents fighting a lot and stuff like that. So I don't know if it necessarily changed his perspectives. I mean, I know he had a full-time job at that point. My father it's crazy. You remember the show Rock, right?
Charles Dutton.
My dad was a trash man. My mom was a nurse, right?
They stole your story.
Right. Except for that episode where the drug dealer came into the neighborhood. My dad unfortunately became that drug dealer.
Gotcha.
And so
narrative shift.
Right.
So what was your dad like? Did y'all have many conversations? Was he a good communicator? Did you feel like you could talk to him?
I still don't feel like I could talk to him. So, he's very, I keep my conversation with my father today very high level. Back then, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember I don't remember a lot of conversations we had back then. I don't.
Yeah.
I do remember one time. I remember us playing football together, and it was me and him on the team, and my brother and my dad, and my brother and my mom on the same team. So that was,
your mom was with it.
Right. I remember that, and then, my dad, with him being a trash person, he used to go paint trash cans on the weekends. The dumpsters, and I can't remember how much he used to get paid for painting those dumpsters. And occasionally he used to take myself and my brother with him to go do that. And I think he'd pay us like $5 or so for a trash can. I can't remember what the number was, but he used to pay us a couple of dollars for a trash can that we helped them with, that we quote unquote helped them with. So
as you're wow, you said you don't. The conversations remain short. As you're maturing into adulthood, well, I guess from high school to college, is there anything significant to highlight about the relationship during high school? Let's talk about that. And if not, as you're becoming a man, what kind of things did you feel like you were maybe lacking any information as you're trying to figure the world out? Because again, like my story is, I was lacking the information because I didn't want it.
Right.
My dad wasn't going to force it on me.
Right.
So even though the dynamic was different, lack of information is lack of information.
Right.
So what was your formative years? And I consider the high school, a lot changed for me in high school. But what were those years like?
My dad went to jail in 94 or 95.
You're 14.
Yeah. And let me think.
13, 14.
Yeah. 12, 13, 14, somewhere. I don't remember the exact year. So he went to jail around that time for, I guess, 6 or 7 years.
For his chemistry background?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
And whatever else he was involved in, I don't know. But and again, those dates in that time period may be skewed because I don't really remember. But sure. I can tell you during my formative years, my biological dad was gone. However, my mother ended up getting remarried to a man who's he was all right. He's similar to my father, similar background. He was in my father's drug of choice was crack. My stepfather's drug of choice was heroin. Fortunately, he was not. So, and again, I didn't see any of that with him either. But eventually his path led back to the drugs. Eventually, so when you were asking about my brothers, I also have a younger stepbrother.
Okay.
His son, who even though they've gotten a divorce way since he and I are still very good, cool. The son, not the father.
Yeah.
Very cool and keep that relationship. But so he was around for a lot of my. So Quentin, my brother was graduating or either junior or senior when he was when they got married or whatnot, and my so I guess I was maybe a ninth or a sophomore.
Okay.
Yeah, and personally, I don't. He was not very that he talked to us, at least tried.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was a little intimidated by us also. I remember one time he had a conversation, my brother and I, we fortunately neither one of us are like the hardcore thugs. Oh, you take my mama type stuff.
Yeah.
Right? We not those guys, right? He had the conversation with us saying, it's hard to find a woman with teenage children who are not like not crazy, but that aren't trying to just buck up against you and all that crap. That's just not me, or you're not even my brother,
Right.
per se. But he was around during those years. He just wasn't very, he didn't really help me with my growth, So
did he think he didn't have a right to his not to? Was it clear that he was the authority in the house when your mom remarried? Or was
No.
like
My mom's the authority.
There
it is. My mom's the authority. My mom's been the authority ever since she got a divorce from my dad.
Gotcha.
She's the authority.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So as that's interesting, because I don't want to jump too far ahead, but how does that impact? No, I'm not gonna jump there now. I'm put a mark in my brain, but we're gonna get to it. What from high school to early adulthood, what was that path like? Did you go to college? Was it military?
Yeah. So I went to college. I'm the first person in my family to go to college, get a degree, and ultimately in advanced degrees and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have, so because of how I always carried myself, right? I stayed out of trouble. I kept it low key, and I can get into that later, the reason why I've always felt that way. But I stayed out of trouble. I kept it low key. I don't really make a lot of crazy decisions. I don't put myself in a lot of crazy situations.
You're safe.
Huh?
You were safe.
Yeah, I'm a safe person, right? Because I don't want to put, I always felt like I'm on a thin line, right? And if I fall off that line, who knows where I'm going to be, right? So I try to stay on the line, right?
Yeah.
So because of how I've always carried myself, I never really got a lot of, at least to me, maybe I did. I didn't get a lot of guidance, pushback, or push forward of how I decided to move with my life.
Mm-hmm.
I decided I wanted to go. I thought about going to the Air Force because the Air Force base was in San Angelo. We used to jump the fence to go play basketball there. My brother ended up going to the Navy. He didn't make it through boot camp, so it freaked me out. I was like, well, if my brother can't make it, I definitely can't make it. So, but again, I also had the grades. Well, I didn't really have the grade. Well, I had the grades, but I had the opportunity to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I did not have. I'm not going to say unfortunately, because if things would have happened differently, I wouldn't be where I am in life. But there was not a lot of junior year. You need to start working on this. So, I don't think I applied for college until I didn't take my SAT until 2 months before I graduated, and I'm one of the smarter Black kids at the school,
right?
Which is nuts, right?
Right.
So, and then apply for the college that I ended up going to, the last 2-3 months of school, and ended up going to UTSA.
Okay.
But college was, generally, was great for me. Like it, one of the things that happened for me in San Angelo, right? Again, how our community works when someone is a little smarter.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And also there's already not a lot of Black people in general, right?
Yeah.
But so that smarter person starts getting ostracized.
Yep.
And then, then also some people in school knew about my background with my father, and I used to get made fun of about the crackheadness and stuff like that too, which was really rough on me growing up. But so in San Angelo, I felt like I was an outsider from all aspects because I'm in the classes with a lot of the white folks who are an outsider, right? And then the black folks are looking at me like, well, he's still an
So you're a
outsider.
nerd. You're a smart guy.
Right. Even though I come from a situation similar or worse
Right.
than them, I just happen to had moved from because of one of those moves that I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we lived in a black neighborhood. We ended up moving to the other side of town, which was more of the whiter neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
or whatnot. But now, because I'm living over there and I'm a smarter kid, now I'm a base kid because I live by the base, and
Right.
you know, we're just so anyway. But getting to college really kind of helped mold me, and also mold my sense of being black again, right? Of being incorporated into the black, you know, experience a little bit more. Like, all of my friends in high school were black.
Yeah.
But I still felt there was a distance between us.
That's
right?
what I was going to ask. If you felt it in real time or only in retrospect, did you realize that, I was out of the mix?
Oh, no. It was in real time.
Okay.
You know, and when I get to college, I was able to understand that it's okay to be black and to be smart about business or doing this or doing that and continuing to strive. You know what I mean? Yeah. I started because I felt I met like people, and I tell people, young people going to college, this you find your tribe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I hate that we have to not that we have to, but in many aspects we choose to negotiate the two, right?
Right.
Black and successful, black and smart, black and articulate.
Right.
We're all that, right? And so that's really interesting. One thing you said that we're gonna go back to, and I hope this is appropriate when to go back. You were a safe person, and you said your demeanor was a certain way because of something, and we go back to it. Like, why were you the more reserved, or just the safe, the walk the line kind of kid?
Again, I think it just goes to the point of me feeling like I feel like I'm always a step away from going crazy.
Oh, okay.
Because of like I like to I toe the line because I don't want to go too far to the right, too far to the left, because I don't want to have something. I don't want to go off the rails myself, and I feel like I can easily do that if I allow myself.
Is that because you hold so much in? Because you said that earlier too. Like, even I think you said to this day you kind of.
I think so.
You bottle stuff up. So being aware of it is a good thing. Have you taken any steps beyond being aware of it to kind of like how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, recently, I mean, over the last 3 or 4 years, I go to counseling now.
Okay,
so,
good.
You know, and honestly, it is just the opportunity for me to talk.
Okay.
You know, so, you know, part of the reason why I am generally get along with a lot of people is because I let people talk, right? And a lot of people just like to hear themselves talk.
A lot of people.
So, but the problem with that is on my end is I don't ever talk myself, right? Maybe I do. I've gotten a lot better at it like recently, but but making sure that I'm able to have those dialogue now.
Yeah.
So
in those conversations, is it more you taking on people's stuff, they dumping on you, or is it just vanity and they just want you to hear how excellent they are?
That's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, man, if someone has a conversation that a lot of people just want to hear themselves, like I had a conversation with a good buddy of mine, right? And on Tuesday night, and he just wanted to talk about whatever the hell it was. Yeah. He's not about to convince me one way or another. But you know what? Hey, now this guy's like, but you know what? I'm not into that stuff that you're asking me about, Brandon, but I'm going to do it just for you. Because like, but again, that's the rapport that I've built by just letting this guy just, you know, talk, or, you know, at least being some type of a listening ear.
Yeah. Let's step back to you having a family. Let's get to the family aspect of it. So the order of things, I guess number one, what is your family dynamic now? Household dynamics, number of kids, spouse, all of that. What is that?
Yeah, so I've been married to my wife for, it's going on 14 years this year.
Excellent, man. Congrats.
Thank you. She and I have probably been together for 20 years this year,
Wow.
or maybe even longer than that. Since I met her the first day of college, which is crazy, but we started dating in 01. So that's almost like 21 years now.
Yeah.
So, but she and I have been married for 14 years. We had our first child in 2013, Cameron. So he's 8. Mm-hmm. And our daughter a year and a half later, and she's 6 now.
Okay.
Yes.
So as you're becoming aware that you want to be a husband, right? Mm-hmm. You want to date this woman, you want to be the man, you want to have a family. Like, what did you draw on for success principles to navigate that? If the math is correct, that you had a space of time where you and your wife were dating, and then there was space of time where you were married without children, mm-hmm. which I think is very helpful. I mean, mm-hmm. I like to hear your perspective on that. But what was the learning process on becoming a man, one, on becoming a husband, on becoming a father?
Yeah, learn as you go at this point still. I mean, to be honest. Yeah, you know, I mean, that I think that's part of my challenge today, right? I am still trying to figure things out. Yeah. Because I don't have any significant conversations with anyone with the exception of other fathers that are in my same like sphere, yeah. Same age group, you know what I'm saying, same place or similar, or, you know, just a few years above, a few years below. Mm-hmm. So just kind of learning from my tribe, to be honest with you. Again, I didn't have a lot of positive male influences growing up. So it's tough for me to draw from those references. Yeah. My grandfather passed last year, first year of COVID, 2020. And you know, he and my grandmother were married for about 50 years, but he was a very reserved guy. But however, I've started to draw on the way he's basically taking care of all of his kids through their adult lives, right? But I never really had any significant conversations with him or anything of that nature. So that's just kind of a pie in the sky. Oh, look at what he did at that age with all his kids. But you know, I again, most of my learning has been just from, you know, just references, trial and error. Yeah. You know, also, you know, not wanting my kids to, you know, which also sometimes ends up being an issue for me because I'm very, not controlling, but overbearing sometimes. Yeah. Yep. With how I approach with my children and things of that nature. Yeah. So, because I want to make sure that they're getting all the things that I don't think I did receive, which, you know, again, which is subjective, right? Yep.
Did you, like, even as you frame it now, it sounds like, well, let me not say what it sounds like. Was there ever a period that you resented not having those models, or for you, was it always, it's on me, I got to figure it out?
Oh, I still resent it.
Oh, wow.
I do every day. Okay. Every day, brother. I resent it. I mean, you know, I resent it, but I also, I'm the figure it out person too, right? Yeah. So, you know, I try not to dwell in the woe is me for long, but I do resent it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How did it, a lot of women listen to this podcast as well, I guess, to gain perspective on how we think of maybe the absence of a father or father figure in some area of their life. How did that impact the relationship, how your relationship developed with your wife, right? Like, I'm pretty sure she probably had to have patience with some things as you kind of like were figuring it out on the fly.
Yeah, no, I mean, she still has to have patience with it, right? You know, it's challenging at times because, again, I still hold stuff in and I have a hard time communicating some of my expectations and needs. I'm
sorry. I'm smiling because that's how this podcast started. Like, my frustration with myself is holding my kids accountable to expectations I never communicated. And now I'm mad at them because they're not doing the thing that I never taught them.
Yep.
But that I knew at their age.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
No, that's me in a nutshell. Right? Holding people, my wife, my kids. And to be honest with you, they're probably the biggest recipients of that. Because honestly, everybody outside of that, I understand that. This is about to sound bad, but they're, with the exception of like my mom and my brother, but they're replaceable.
That was one of the words that I was like, what is he gonna say? They're expendable. Or,
expendable or replaceable.
And it's a show to them,
right?
It's not it's weird that we dump on the people that we trust and love the most, that mean the most to us. I guess partially that's a sign of vulnerability with them,
right?
But not being able to articulate it comes out all bad for me a lot of times.
Yep, that's me. That's me.
So what is some of your like immediate concerns with how it impacts your children? Because again, this is why this podcast is about holding me accountable. It's about sharing information too, but it's like my son was coming to the age that I was when I didn't want nothing to do with my father.
Right.
And it wasn't because I had a bad father, it's just because I thought I knew more. I didn't like his rules and all that. Yeah. And it's almost like that paralyzing fear that, okay, if I do this, do I push him away?
Right.
If I actually give him the information that he needs, how's he gonna feel about it? Like I was in my head about a lot of that. And I'm not saying that's your story, but how does it like what are you consciously aware of and how you parent that you gotta be super I gotta be super mindful of this?
Let me tell you, my biggest fear is that I'm gonna do irreparable damage to my children. So I try to, because I yell too much. Like way too much. I'm a little bit overbearing sometimes, going back to what I was saying about me being safe, trying not to make mistakes and stuff like that. Sometimes I don't give them enough chances with mistakes, especially given their age, right? Yeah. But I could tell you, like, sometimes my daughter, she's just in her own world at times, and even when I'm yelling at her, most of the time she still doesn't care. But there's times where I yell at her and she takes it to heart. Yeah. Like my son, yelling at him is, I'm trying to stop it as much because I can see, because my son wants to, he just wants to hang out with me.
Wow.
He just wants to be around me. Like, and he just wants to make sure I'm fine and stuff like that. So I don't want him to hold that burden.
Yeah.
2, and I don't want him to, again, become resentful of it or resentful of me because of whatever,
So were you that kid? Did you want to hang out with your father?
I don't know, man. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I know we didn't. So
right. Because I'm wondering how it is. Because similar to me, like I didn't want to hang out with my dad, but my son now, he's like, Dad, you going to the studio? Dad, you doing this? Can you I see him trying to find more common interests with me than oftentimes I do with him. Because I think, he just wants to sit in his room and play the game. He's like, well, no, you never came and said, let's go bowling.
Right.
I would like to do that. How do you process that? That he always wants to be around you when maybe that wasn't the case. Like, is it weird for you?
Yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes I'm like, hey, go sit down somewhere. Yeah. Like, leave me alone. Yeah. But I spend a lot of time with my children. Yeah. I spend a ton of time. I make sure to do homework with them and read with them. My son's starting to get into basketball.
Gotcha.
Practicing with him again, which he adores, like us practicing together. Yeah. He likes playing video games, right? And he just like, I'm not even that good anymore, but he still just wants to play with me. You know what I mean? Same with my daughter. I mean, just spending time with her in general. Like tonight, gonna go out and hang out with some buddies. You potentially.
If I get my last one done, I'm gonna be out there.
Potentially. But I'm like, okay, well, she has her gymnastics class. I got to make sure to get back so I can see that. So I spend a lot of time with my kids. But again, sometimes you know, when I'm into my head, right, I start, like, get away from me, leave me alone. So yeah,
I think something I don't want to miss. I don't want the audience to miss is that be aware of the signs when your kids want to be around you, right? Because sometimes, like for me, I see it through such a lens of me not wanting to be that. I assume that he doesn't like, or any of my children.
right,
It's focus on my son because that's where, like, I had daughters first,
right,
right? So I had to be softer, right? I can't put my hands on I said it before and I'm saying it again. I don't want to demonstrate that physical adjustment is a way to get them to act right,
right,
as a man,
right,
right? Especially the first man that they trust, and then like, can they compartmentalize that? Oh, it was just my dad was supposed to do this, and any other man,
yeah,
is not. I never want to be that. And plus, I can look at my daughters and they'll cry. Like if they see the disappointment on my face, it's like, and then I really can't do anything. But my son, like I struggle with like tough, right? And I didn't come from projects. I didn't come from the hood. I put myself in some situations where you do what you got to do. But how much street smarts do I need my son to have? We're not in the streets.
right.
Like I'm not in the streets now. Like
Right.
but I want him to be aware and recognize because my pet peeve is that my kids walk around not aware of the environment.
Yeah, yeah,
Like how do you not see what's going on? But you're not trained, and how do you get the experience without the experience, right?
Right.
So I struggle with that. But parents don't miss the signs that kids want to be around you, whether they're saying it, they're demonstrating it with their actions or just their looks. I think that's really important because I think that can crush a kid because if that happens unaddressed, it may happen way more frequently than you're aware of it.
Right.
But they're aware of it.
Yeah.
And that's that irreparable damage that you were referencing.
That's actually a really good point and something that I am going to take to heart, to be honest with you, because you're right. You're not aware of it, right? Yeah. But those are things that are going to those are stacked and stored in their memory banks, right? Stacked and stored, and then all of a sudden it comes out one day.
Compounding.
Yeah. I know you're asking the question, but one of the things you said, one of the things you just said was the street smarts aspect of it, right? Mm-hmm. And I had a conversation with my brother. My brother has a 23-year-old daughter, and then he has a 9-year-old son. Mm-hmm. So his son and my son are a year apart.
Okay.
And we have this conversation about, here's the reality, bro. Like, our kids are suburban kids. Right? Like, even though we grew up this way, like, our children are suburban kids, man. Like, so yes, we definitely don't want them to be unaware of their surroundings, right? And honestly, maybe it's too even early for them, like, at least on my children's side, our kids with them being 9 and 8, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's too early for them to be fully aware of these surroundings, to be, what I mean? Was I aware of those surroundings at that age? Yes. Yeah. But maybe it is. So we have to we have to make sure that we're understanding the environment that we are putting them in. Correct. And having them grow up in. Right. Because they're not growing up the same way. Yeah. My kid can't go down the street right now without me watching him. When I was young, I'm bye. You know what I'm saying?
What time do I have to be back?
Right. So, yeah.
And then with COVID taking away a couple of years of their maturing and interacting with each other, like I see it now. We go to a game. We went to a game, and I'm putting you out there, son. We went to a high school game, and a couple of his friends was walking around, and they stopped. They was like, "Yo," he was like, "Nah." Like, I'm not leaving. Like, he was sitting on the same road with me, and I was just like, I wanted my parents to drop me off a block from the game. Like, you don't even see me with it. So I wonder how much of it is like he really values time around me, or is it like just lack maturing or nervous in social environments. As we start to wind down, I want to make sure that I don't think it comes across as doom and gloom, but I want to talk about some of the positives, man. What's your I put a dad tag out on IG and asked a few questions, and one of them was, "What is your biggest flex as a father? What do you do well? Like, what do you? I do this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's, spending time with my kids.
Dope.
That I spend a ton of time with my kids, man, and they know it, man.
Yeah.
Like, I again being, I'm reading with them. I'm playing basketball with them. I'm dancing with them.
Mm.
You know, and I smile a lot, man.
Yeah. You don't look like what you've been through.
Huh?
So you don't look like what you've been through.
I hide it well, or mask it.
Yeah.
But I smile a lot. And again, I just spend a lot of time with them, man.
Yeah.
My wife was in school for about 3 years in the last. My wife just got her PhD.
Dope. Congratulations.
She graduated last August, so that was very time intensive for her.
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, man, I really got to, there was some bad in there, but there was also some good in there, and just the opportunity, a lot of good in there. Just the amount of time I got to hang out and spend with my children.
Yeah.
So and again, I continue to do that. Just the time and making sure that I'm there for them, and again, I'm working on being able to listen when they're talking.
I get that. It's very easy to dismiss kids.
It is.
Again, when they're asking for your attention, and you fully intend to give them attention, just not when they ask for it, and how demoralizing that can be for them.
Yeah.
So I know I got to be more aware of that, because, like, if I'm working on my computer, and my youngest daughter is the one that's mainly up under me, is the one that's always going to come check on me.
Mm-hmm.
Like my older ones, so I got 19, 16, 15, 9, and 7 right now. The two oldest are girls, my son, and then the daughter that I'm talking about is 9, and my youngest son is 7. But she, even at 9 years old, she cares so much about how people around her are doing, and she internalizes it. So I got to be aware when she comes in the room and I'm literally engaged in something that needs all my attention, that I don't just kind of shoo her off or shoo her away. So that's definitely something I got to work on too. What do you want your kids to remember about you? Not that you're going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah. No, honestly, that I love them, and my intentions for them are just to grow and be healthy.
Yeah.
And honestly, do whatever makes them feel happy, and that I'm going to support it.
So that, I don't know if that's new with our generation, or just new in my family. The generation I'm in my family is that two things can be true. You can love what you do, and you can be really successful, and it can be very lucrative, right? And that's something that my kids are seeing in real time as my journey is changing. As we were probably talked about before at one of those events, but kind of rehashing before we started recording. My last day in my corporate job is, at the time of this record, is actually 4 weeks. Well, 4 weeks and a couple of days. And it's like, that's been my identity for a long time. And it's a struggle for me. Like, I got to a level that many don't see, and I got there earlier than many of my peers were in that space. And it's not to brag, that's the point of reference. It's all God. But to go from that to my new life now, where I have to create the opportunities, right? And I got to seize them, entrepreneurship. It's important for me, for my kids to see that, no matter what the outcome is, because I want them to know that it's all possible and it's all worth it. If you do it the right way. Do your kids understand their privilege?
No.
Yeah, well, you said 8, 9. That's kind of, it's kind of early. Maybe I'm saying
they 100% don't. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
They don't understand that. Eating ramen was a luxury, not for us. You know what I mean? So, no, they don't understand it.
Gotcha. What do you do about that?
Man,
I don't even know. I don't know if there's an answer,
right?
Because I struggle with it. The whole, and again, like I said, I didn't come out of the projects, but the whole, like, get out the mud. I got it from the bottom. Like, why do we resetting the bottom for the next generation or make that the expectation?
Right.
Not that you're saying it, but just like that's something I struggle with in our community is get it how I got it. No, you got it. You're a stepping stone. You're the block. You're the foundation for.
No, I mean, so one, I'm going to clarify. I never actually lived in the projects.
Okay.
Just around the project.
Okay.
I don't want to misrepresent myself.
Sure.
But to your point, I mean, but why does it have to be a struggle for them?
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to be. Granted, everybody's gonna go through their own trials and tribulation with whatever they do.
Yep.
Right? So our job as parents is to set our children up, because nobody else does that. You know what I'm saying? Like no other racial group does that. Our jobs as parents is to set a foundation for our kids, and then they can figure out where they're going from there. But the foundation doesn't have to be the bottom.
Yeah, dig it out again.
Right. You don't have to dig it out again. The foundation can be, 3 steps above the poor foundation now, right? So and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, because eventually the children are going to figure it out, which way they're going to go anyways. And they're going to go through whatever trials and tribulations that come with their story.
Yeah.
But,
we don't have to give them hours.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't, and again, that's also a struggle for us, and I know we're winding down here, but like our generation, and there's our generation, unfortunately, had the crack era as the foundation, right? And I'll say this: it did irreparable damage to our community.
Absolutely.
And now the generation of fathers after that, granted, some of them still have their struggles and things of that nature. They're trying to fix the damage that happened between them and their fathers, right? Whether it was jail, the drugs, or whatever the case may be, there's the fathers of the late 70s, early 80s, and early 90s there's a lot of them that were just gone for whatever reason. So our generation is trying to fix that. I don't know any Black fathers my age that aren't in their children's lives somehow, and aren't act like, and when I say just because you're giving your, the child support, no, most fathers in my age group are active in it, whether they're with the mother's child's mother or not, they're active. So they're trying to fix that level of, fatherhood.
Yeah.
Even my friends that are, let's say, some of my friends who are Nigerian, for example, and their fathers were around, right? But again, they have that relationship. Some of them have that relationship where their father was a little, he was there, but they didn't have, that active dynamic with their dad. But those parents, even them, they're very active into their children's lives, taking their kids to, your dad ain't taking you to no party, no kid's birthday party, right?
That's man. So, all right, here's what we're gonna do, right? I'll admit the last tangent I went on was really setting you up because it's part of a bigger conversation that we're going to have as a group of men, right? So we'll come back and revisit all of these things because if I say what I'm thinking, we're going to go another 30 minutes. So I'll pause it here, but look forward to the future conversation, or no matter, depending on what sequence you're watching this in, you'll see Brandon again in another setting, if he's willing, to be part of this conversation. This has been a great conversation for me, just a dialogue. I know for those that don't know, there's no real prep work, right? And maybe that reflects in the way how the episodes come out. But I know how it resonates and I know with whom it resonates. And that's intentional because I am actually trying to learn as a father too. So whether you're older than me, younger than me, our experiences are different. And there's something that I can glean from conversation that helps me either think different or adjust something. So that's why the conversations are the way they are. But this one, I know I've gotten some very specific things that I need to work on, especially like the whole being dismissive, right? Yelling isn't my thing. Yelling is on my wife's side of the family. Like they're just a louder family. My family was very reserved, right? And that's why I was interested in and how you became that person. But just in ensuring that we're looking at the activity of the kids, whether it's what they're saying, what characteristics they're demonstrating or that their behavior when they're saying that they want to be around us, and let's not, take it for granted. If the people want to reach you, are you open to that? And if so, how can they reach you? You have Instagram, Facebook, anything like that?
Yeah. Feel free to reach out, man. I'm always an open book, man. I'm on Instagram, but I got to figure out my.
It'll be below.
Yeah.
it'll be in the description below, man. I definitely appreciate your time. So we'll wrap here. Look forward to having you back. Let me address my listeners. Well, listening audience, if you made it this far, you should have had several comments, right? Especially if you're on YouTube. If you're listening to this on an audio platform, please make sure that you are following, rating the podcast where possible. It helps, whether you think it does or not. Don't just listen to keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend or somebody that you hate that might get something from it. I think that's going to do it for this episode. We appreciate you guys. God bless you. Peace. Stoked, bro. And that's how it goes.
Yeah, good stuff, man.